Kirsten Alexander. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Mansfield Shire. In accordance with Section 61 of the Local Government Act 2020 and the Mansfield Shire Council governance rules, I, as the Chief Executive Officer, shall act as the chairperson until the election of the mayor is concluded. And I'm opening the meeting at 5 p.m. today. Welcome to everyone who's attending online and in the chamber. I'd like to call on each councillor and ask them to confirm verbally that they can see all councillors and hear the proceeding. Councillor Brenny.
I can hear the proceedings and see all councillors and council officers.
Councillor Clark.
I can hear the proceedings and see all councillors and council officers.
Councillor Rabi.
I can hear the proceedings and see all councillors and council officers.
Councillor Tian.
I can see the councillors and council officers and hear the proceedings.
And Councillor Treasure.
I can hear the proceedings and see all councillors and council officers.
And congratulations, councillors, on your election. I'll now ask each councillor to confirm by raising their hand that they can all hear each statement of the councillors. Thank you. We have no apologies tonight. I'll now ask each councillor to confirm their commitment to the statement of commitment, which is, as councillors of Mansfield Shire, you are committed to ensuring your behaviour meets the standards set by the Model Councillor Code of Conduct. You will at all times faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in you by the community. Now call on Councillor Brenny.
I confirm.
Councillor Clark.
I confirm my commitment.
Councillor Raby.
I confirm my commitment.
Councillor Tian.
I confirm my commitment.
Councillor Treasure.
I confirm my commitment.
Thank you. I'll now recite Council's acknowledgement of country. Our meeting is held on the traditional lands of the Taungurung people. We wish to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and pay our respects to their elders past and present. We extend that respect to all members of our community. I'll call on each councillor in turn and ask them to declare whether they have any conflicts of interest in relation to any agenda items. Councillor Brenny.
I do not have any conflicts of interest.
Councillor Clark.
I have no conflicts of interest in related to this agenda.
Councillor Raby.
I have no conflicts of interest in relation to any agenda items this evening.
Councillor Tian.
I have no conflicts of interest in relation to the agenda tonight.
And Councillor Treasure.
I have no conflict of interest in relation to the agenda.
Thank you. We're now to determination of the mayoral term. The Local Government Act 2020 states that before a mayor is elected, the council must determine by resolution whether the mayor is to be elected for a 1-year or a 2-year term. I now ask councillors for a motion in relation to the mayoral term as recommended on page 6 of your agenda. Do I have someone willing to move that motion or a motion? Councillor Tian.
Yes, Madam CEO, thanks. I'd like to move that Council 1 determines the length of the mayoral term to be a period of 1 year, and 2 determines that the next mayoral election to be held at the November 2025 scheduled meeting of council.
Thank you, Councillor Tian. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Raby. Okay. Do I have anyone who would like to speak against that motion? No. Anyone speaking for? No. I will now put that motion to a vote. Those in favour? And the motion is carried. Thank you. Item 8, election of the mayor. In accordance with the Mansfield Shire governance rules, I will now facilitate the election of the mayor in accordance with the provision of the Act. The election of the mayor will be carried out by a show of hands. I have received the following nomination for mayor. I have received a nomination from Councillor Tian for Councillor Raby. Councillor Raby, do you accept the nomination for the role of mayor?
Yes, Madam CEO, I accept.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Councillors, the recommendation is before you on page 9 of your agenda. May I have a motion that Councillor Raby be appointed to the role of Mayor of Mansfield Shire, please? I should note I did not receive any other nominations for the role. So councillors, Clark,
I'd like to move that the pursuant to the provisions of section 25 and 26 of the Local Government Act 2020, council appoints Councillor Raby as Mayor of Mansfield Shire for a term of 1 year, no later than the scheduled meeting of today, the 26th of November, 2024.
thank you, Councillor Clark. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Treasure, thank you. Is there anyone speaking against the motion? No? Would anyone like to speak for the motion? No? In that case, I will put it to the vote. All those in favour? And the motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Raby. The motion is carried and Councillor Raby is duly elected as Mayor of Mansfield Shire Council. And I'd like to now invite you to assume the chair to facilitate the remaining sections of the meeting. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks, Madam CEO. I'd like to say a couple of words if I could. I'd like to thank you, my fellow councillors, for putting your trust in me to lead the council term into 2025 as the mayor. It's indeed a privilege, pardon me. It is indeed a privilege and an honour, one that I take very seriously and diligently. I'd like to congratulate Councillor Tehan on his re-election. I'd like to also congratulate all 3 new councillors on your appointment as councillors. It's a new term and I'm sure we all have the same goal, which is continuing to keep the Shire on its current course, being financially responsible in the management of our ratepayers' money. I look forward to continuing to support the Historical Society and complete their museum, lobbying for our Mansfield Emergency Services Hub, lobbying for new childcare facilities to keep up with our growing population, completion of the construction works on Highton Lane and Riflebutts Road called the Impact Route, continued lobbying to the state government to protect and preserve our rural amenity through more autonomy in our planning scheme, show that Mansfield is open for business, and also continue to listen to our community. And so I'll be able to exert all my attention to the position of Mayor in this term with the ongoing and continued support of my wonderful wife, Tamara, and our family. So thank you very much, everybody. Agenda item 9 is the election of the Deputy Mayor. So in accordance with the Mansfield Shire Governance Rules, the election of the Deputy Mayor will be carried out by show of hands. I'll now conduct the election process and call for nominations for the role of Deputy Mayor. The CEO has received the following nomination for Deputy Mayor. Councillor Brenny nominates Councillor Tehan. Councillor Tehan, do you accept the nomination role of Deputy Mayor?
Yes.
Councillors, the recommendation is before you on page 11 of your agenda. May I have a motion that Councillor Tehan be appointed to the role of Deputy Mayor of Mansfield Shire, please? Councillor Breen.
I'll move the motion that pursuant to the provisions of sections 27 of the Local Government Act 2020, Council appoints Councillor Tehan as Deputy Mayor of Mansfield Shire for a term of 1 year, no later than the scheduled meeting of 26th of November 2024.
Thanks very much. Have I got a seconder to the motion? Councillor Clark. Have I got anyone to speak against that motion? In that case, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? Thanks very much. The motion is carried. And Congratulations, councillor Teague, on your appointment of deputy mayor. Would you like to say anything?
Yeah, okay. Briefly, I remember sitting here 4 years ago, getting elected as deputy mayor when councillor Holcomb was elected as mayor. And we were sitting around this room and we all had masks on. And it was the only meeting we had in chambers for about 3.5 years after that. So it's really good to be here without a mask on and to be with a new group and to have a new mayor first time. I could probably just touch on the fact that the mayor at that time, councillor Holcomb, did a fantastic job, has now retired. And I hope he's tuning in and watching, and he'll be disappointed to see that the mayor didn't put his robes on like councillor Holcomb did 4 years ago. Albeit, I think he was chained up a bit, but anyway. No, thanks very much for electing me, and I look forward to working with you all and councillor Rabi.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Item 10 is the confirmation of minutes. There is a recommendation before you, councillor. The confirmation of minutes, councillor Team.
I'll move that the minutes of the Mansfield Shire Council meeting held on the 26th of November 2024 be confirmed as an accurate record.
Mr. Mayor, that was my error. That's today's date.
Correct.
Yes.
Oh, it is too,
Yeah.
26.
Apologies.
So it should
Vote
be,
needs to be for the 15th of October
Okay,
and for the 23rd of October.
yeah, for the,
23rd.
and for the 23rd of October.
15 October 2024 and 23 October.
I'll leave out my name at the end.
Mm.
Okay, I'll read that out again, that the minutes of the Mansfield Shire Council meeting held on the 15th of October and the 23rd of October 2024 be confirmed as an accurate record.
And a point, I'd like to ask the governance officer, is it only for the councillors that were there to confirm that? Anyone can confirm that? Okay, over to you, councillors, for a seconder.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Councillor Treasure, seconding the motion. Does anyone want to speak against that motion? In that case, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. Confirmation of the councillor oath of affirmation of office is item 11. And in accordance with section 60 of the Local Government Act 2020, it must be recorded in the minutes of council that the Mansfield Shire Council's oath or affirmation of office was undertaken. There is a recommendation before you, councillors. Councillor Clark.
I'd like to move a motion that council, in accordance with section 30 of the Local Government Act, confirms that the following councillors of Mansfield Shire Council have taken their oath or affirmation of office administered by the Chief Executive Officer, Councillor James Teahan, Councillor Steve Rabi, Councillor Mandy Treasure, Councillor Bonnie Clark, and Councillor Tim Berenier.
Thank you, councillor Clark. Have I got a seconder to the motion? Councillor Berenier. Has anyone dissent? Anyone want to speak against that motion? In that case, I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried. Representations, item 12, there are none. Item 13, notices of motion, there are nil. There are no public questions. The agenda divided. So over to item 15.1, which is the Chief Executive Officer's report. Our responsible officer is the Chief Executive Officer. Anyone got any councillors got any questions for the CEO tonight on that report? Oh,
I've got
Councillor
a
Breen.
question.
Thank you.
That I'll ask through you, Mr. Mayor, to Madam CEO. Just around section 7 and the septic permits, and just wondering why there's been a drop off in the number of septic permit processing.
Thank you, councillor Brennan. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I might ask that the General Manager, Investment and Planning, to give some information on that one.
Yep, so certainly through you, Mr. Mayor, there's a couple of elements to our septic permit program. One is the applications that are lodged and that we're dealing with. So we can only issue as many permits as we receive. So it is a bit dependent on permit applicants. The other element to our septic program is the compliance program, where we do inspections of potentially non-compliant systems across the municipality on a risk-based approach. That program has recommenced with the return of staff from long leave, and that will actually usually result in an uplift of extra applications as people work with council to get their systems back into a compliant state. Yeah. So the new developments may have, there's less new developments, but as we roll our compliance program out a bit more, it will start increasing the number of increased new applications for people to be at the compliant.
Thank you. Councillors, Councillor T?
Yeah, I've got a few questions, Madam CEO. On page 5 of your report, the Emergency Services Resilience Centre, it states there we weren't successful, but feedback was received in October from the funding body that will assist with future funding applications. Can you just briefly outline what that feedback was in relation to that grant not being approved?
Absolutely. Through you, Mr. Mayor, look, it was quite detailed. And I don't actually have the email in front of me, but it did relate to elements of council's application that could be strengthened. So we found the feedback was quite constructive, and there was a number of elements. I'm not sure if the General Manager has it to hand, but otherwise you don't happen to have that one handy. But otherwise we will be looking at that in detail as we prepare another application to round 3, because I think officers found that feedback very useful. Yeah. So it just related to various aspects of the application. Yeah.
Okay, nothing to do specifically with the site or the it was more around the way the grant was written, was it? Yeah. Exactly.
About the strategic justification, there was a whole range of feedback there, very constructive feedback, and it was related to the applications that were successful this time around. So I think we'll find that very useful in how we target the next one.
Okay. Another question on page 7 to do with the disabled car parking. I was just wondering whether it says various locations. We got an update on where those parking spots are placed.
Yeah, so I'll test my memory on this one through you, Mr. Mayor. It was outside in the central car park opposite the Delatite Hotel, in that area there. There was an additional park there, one in front of the IGA, and I'm probably going to draw. And there's, I think, another one behind the IGA that was reline marked, and I'm probably missing one. So there was information provided and also put on council's Engage page, but it was prior to the election period. So it does date back several months now. But they were the main 3 that I can remember off the top of my head. I'm not sure if the General Manager can remember if the 4th. I think there was a 4th.
Yeah, I too, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not clear on the 4th, but it was a while ago that we were doing that. But yes, there was 4 locations.
I know where the other one is. It's opposite the old Westpac bank in High Street.
Okay.
Right. Oh, sorry, not in High Street, in Hyatt Street. Opposite where the public toilets are, on the east side. So it'll be the northeast of the roundabout.
Directly opposite the Delatite.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Great to see we've got 4 more disabled parks, and so they'll obviously online to be opened in December. this
Yep.
year, which is really good news. Yeah. On page 10 of the report, I just see we've got a proposal coming forward, an application lodged for a stone extraction on lot 4A, O'Halloran's Road, Ridge Creek. Is this a retrospective application or is it a new application?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I might have to take that on notice. I'm not sure if it's retrospective. I'm not aware of any retrospective ones that we haven't already had lodged yet. But I'm happy to provide councillors with some information on that. But it will go through the normal planning process as any one of these applications will go through, with the due assessment, consideration of the regulations under the extractive industries with the extractive industries, and the normal advertising process to nearby and adjoining owners. But I'm happy to take that on notice and provide a little bit more detail to councillors on the specifics of that application.
Thanks, Ms. Crane. I noticed in the report on page 19, which jumped out at me, was the building services, the monthly comparative value. We had a massive jump up in the dollar value, and that was obviously with the Binderee extension, which throws the figures right out there. Page 25, an interesting one was the tobacco inspections, which jumped up markedly in September. Was there a reason for that, Madam CEO?
I think our General Manager, through you, Mr. Mayor, will have the answer to that one.
Yes, certainly. So, yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we have a range of inspections we do in our health officers do a range of different inspections. They had been working on, again, we do it in a risk-based approach. So we've been working through our class 1, class 2 premise inspections in the first instance, and they've predominantly been done. I think you'll notice on page 23, there's a drop in the amount of those that need to be done, which gave us the opportunity to increase some of our other inspections, which includes the tobacco inspections. There's two forms of tobacco inspection or works that we do in relation to tobacco regulation at council. The inspections are where our health officers will go in and just make sure that they're complying in relation to signage, how they're locating the shop so that none of the product are visible to the public, those kind of things. The other part of our program does involve tobacco test purchasing, where we actually have we do test purchasing with somebody who is technically underage, and to see if we can actually to fault, and that's usually a really great way to work down and work through an education piece with our tobacco retailers. So the inspections are only one part of what we do in relation to trying to make sure all of our retailers are doing the right thing in relation to the sale of tobacco.
And would you care to shed any light on compliance?
Yes, certainly. There has been, generally the tobacco test purchasing program finds most places are generally compliant. If they're not, we will go through there's usually a formal warning process in the first instance. If they do the wrong thing again, they will get fined, and the fines can be substantial. Nobody has got to the point where they've needed a fine, which is really great because it shows that they're very responsive. The tobacco inspections by the health officer have generally shown that there's been no issues with how our vendors have been displaying and managing their tobacco within the municipality, which is a reflection on the great work the team do in that education piece and making sure they stay compliant.
Right. Thanks. And one last one, just on page 26 of the report, might be you again, Ms. Crane, but just pleasing to see the FOGO tonnages are, well, they've doubled what they were when we started in July. So you care to comment on that at all, the progress we've made there?
Yeah, certainly through you, Mr. Mayor. We are really excited to see it grow, and we continue to push with trying to get more people take up the green bin. We also had a really successful spring cleanup event. So promoting the proper reuse of green waste instead of it going to landfill is a really great outcome, in particularly in relation to diversion from landfill. And the team's working hard to increase that take up, when they'll be running some composting workshops early in the new year to try and encourage even more people to reduce waste to landfill as we go forward.
Right, that's all. Thanks.
Councillors, any more questions, CEO, for the report? Page 15 as a recommendation. 15.
Yep, I'll move that council receive and note the Chief Executive Officer's report for the period 1st of October 2024 to the 31st of October 2024.
Thank you. And seconder? Councillor Brown. Would you like to speak to the motion of the mover?
No, thanks.
Councillor Barini, would you like to speak to the seconder?
No.
Is there motion opposed? Anyone want to speak against it? No? I shall put the motion to a vote. Anyone is in favour of the motion? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 15.2.1 is the planning permit application P 152/22 at 295 Tabletop Road, Bridge Creek. The responsible officer is Ms. Claire Wilkinson, and good evening and welcome to you. I'll just read out the purpose of the report, if you wouldn't mind. So this report seeks council's determination for planning permit application P 152/22 lodged for buildings and works for the alteration of an existing dwelling and change of use of existing outbuilding to group accommodation. This application is being referred to council for determination as the permit applicant is an employee of the Mansfield Shire Council. Otherwise, it would just councillors that would go through the normal channels. That's why it's here. Councillors, have you got any questions for Ms. Wilkinson tonight? Councillor, so
Yeah, Ms. Wilkinson, just following up from what the mayor has said, if this application wasn't from the current Shire employee, would it pass through planning as it is in the agenda?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, happy to speak to this agenda item. The application is for accommodation in the Tabletop Road area. The zone is farming zone. It's a small lot, so it's only 4 hectares. So in those instances, that's the permit trigger is dwelling on a lot under 40 hectares. So it would trigger a planning permit. It also triggers a planning permit under the overlay, which is for wastewater. So the siting of an on-site septic system on a small lot under 40 hectares in that particular zone. So it would come to council. It would be reviewed by the planning officers as it has, and back and forwards between the applicant in terms of providing the necessary information to meet the zoning and overlay requirements. And the reason why this one, though, is coming before you is because of the ownership and not being delegated. So it still would trigger a permit, yes, very much so. However, the officer recommendation would likely be reviewed by under delegation.
Thanks.
No problem.
I think the question that specifically the councillor team might be asking is, if this didn't come to the chamber, would it have already just gone through under your delegation, as is the recommendation?
Yeah, there wouldn't have been any other changes.
Yeah.
The applicant has done some work with the on-site septic. So the process for the permit has sort of run through its normal course. And yes, it would likely have already reached a determination and gone to either Nicole or up to Mel for under our recommendation.
Yep.
For their review.
Councillors, any questions? Okay, there's page 23 has a recommendation. Councillor Team.
Yeah, I'd like to move the motion that is on page 23, 24 and 25 of tonight's agenda.
Okay. Have we got a seconder to the motion? Councillor Treasure. Councillor Tean, would you like to speak to that motion?
No, I don't think it's necessary.
Councillor Treasure, would you like to speak to the
thank
motion? Would anyone want to speak against the motion? In that case, anyone want to speak for the motion? I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? And that motion is carried. Very short and sweet for you. Thanks for coming in tonight. We do appreciate it. Want to just sit there, just stay where you are. Yeah, if that's it, if you're happy to do that. Yep. Item 15.3.1 is the schedule of meetings December 2024 to November 2025. And the responsible officer is Ms. Young, our governance and risk officer. Welcome. This report seeks council endorsement for the meeting schedule of the Mansfield Shire Council meetings for the next 12 months. Councillors, have you got any questions about the meeting schedule? Nope. Has anyone got a motion then? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move a motion that council adopt the proposed meeting schedule for Mansfield Shire Council from December 2024 until November 2025.
Thank you. Have I got a seconder to the motion, councillors? Councillor Treasure. Councillor Clark, would you like to speak to the motion?
Only to say very good job. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Treasure, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Any councillors want to speak against that motion? Or for the motion? In that case, I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? And the motion is carried. Don't go away. This item 15.3.2 is the councillor appointed representation on committees. And the responsible officer is again Ms. Young, governance and risk officer. So this report seeks council's determination of councillor representation on internal committees of council and outlines external committees that require the appointment of a councillor representative. Councillors, before you on page 31, we have the first recommendation. Have we got a motion? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like to move that council nominates the following councillors to the Mansfield Shire Audit and Risk Committee. Councillor Mandy Treasure and Mayor Councillor Stephen Raby.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Have we got a seconder to that motion? Councillor Team. Do you want to speak to the motion, Councillor Clark?
No, thank you, sir.
Do you want to speak to the motion, Councillor Team? Does anyone want to speak against that recommendation? Motion, sorry. Put that motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. The motion number 2 for the Chief Executive Officer Employment Matters Committee. I've got a motion, councillors. Councillor Treasure,
I'd like to nominate the following councillors to the Chief Executive Officer Employment Matters Committee. Mayor Councillor Raby, Deputy Mayor Councillor Tehan, and Councillor Clark.
thank you. Have I got a seconder to the motion? Councillor Clark, thank you. Councillor Treasure, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor Clark, do you want to speak? to the
No.
motion? Does anyone want to speak against that motion? In that case, I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? That motion is carried. The next is the Mansfield Station Precinct Museum Complex Community Asset Committee.
I'd like to move, oh, sorry.
Yes.
You go.
Councillor Clark,
I'd like to move in a motion,
yes?
alternate to the recommendation.
It's a motion.
Just a motion.
Yeah.
Motion. I'd like to move that council defer this nomination of councillor appointed representative to the Mansfield Station Precinct Museum Complex Community Asset Committee until the December 2024 council meeting.
Thank
Be
you.
reviewed there.
Have I got a seconder to the motion? Councillor Brennan. Councillor Clark, do you want to speak to the motion?
Just that the decision was made to wait for some more information on the establishment of the committee before we nominate the right representative.
Sure, thank you. Councillor Brennan,
Thanks.
does anyone want to speak against that motion? Okay, so I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. The Australia Day Awards Committee. Have we got a motion for that? Councillor Tehan.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council nominates Mayor Councillor Raby and councillors Tehan and Treasure to the Australia Day Awards Committee.
Thank you. Have we got a seconder to the motion? Councillor Treasure. Councillor Tehan, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Treasure is seconded. Do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Have we got anyone want to speak against or dissenting the motion? In that case, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour of that motion? And that motion is carried. Page 32 is the Goulburn Murray Climate Alliance. There is a recommendation for you. Councillor Clark.
I'd like to, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move a motion that council nominates Councillor Berenier to the Goulburn Murray Climate Alliance.
Here, have I got a seconder to the motion? Councillor Treasure. Thank you. Councillor Clark, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor Treasure.
No, thank you.
Anyone want to speak against that motion? I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. The Hume Regional Local Government Network, Haralgan. We've got a recommendation. Doing the heavy lifting tonight.
I am.
Councillor
All right, I can
Clark.
move. I'm happy to move this one.
Yeah, what I can do. Good stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council nominates as required the Mayor Councillor Raby to the Hume Regional Local Government Network.
Thank you. Have I got a seconder to that motion? Councillor Treasure. Does anyone, Councillor Clark, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor Treasure, do you want to speak?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Have I got any dissent or anyone want to speak against that motion? Put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. They're still on page 32, the Municipal Association of Victoria. There is a recommendation before you. Councillor Treasure.
I'd like to make a motion, please. That we appoint the Mayor, Councillor Ravy, to the Municipal Association of Victoria and appoint Deputy Mayor, Councillor Tian, as substitute council representative to the MAV. Sorry.
Thank you. Have I got a seconder to the motion? Councillor Clark. Councillor Treasure, you moved the motion. Do you want to speak to it?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Clark, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Got any dissent or anyone want to speak against that motion? I shall put that motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? That motion is carried. Page 33, Rural Councils of Victoria. There is a recommendation. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council nominates Councillor Tian, Deputy Mayor Tian, as Mansfield Shire Council's Rural Councils Victoria representative.
Thank you. And I've got a second to the motion.
Oh,
Councillor Treasure. Councillor Clark, do you want to speak to that motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor Treasure, do you want to speak? To the
No,
motion?
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Does anyone want to speak against or any dissent on the motion? That motion to a vote, all those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried. The recommendation for the North East Local Government Waste and Recovery Forum. Councillors, a motion?
Well,
Councillor Treasure.
please, I'd like to nominate, the council nominates Councillor Berenier to the North East Local Government Waste and Recovery Forum.
Thank you. Have I got a seconder to that motion? Councillor Tian. And Councillor Treasure, do you want to speak to that motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Tian, do you want to speak to it? No. Have I got any dissent or anyone want to speak against the motion? I should put that motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion, that motion is carried. The page 33, the Tangerong Local Government Forum, and there's a recommendation in front of you, councillors.
Yeah, I'll move the motion, Mr. Mayor,
you.
that council nominate Mayor Councillor Steve Raby to the Tangerong Local Government Forum.
And have I got a seconder to the motion? Councillor Tian. Councillor Berenier, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor Tian, do you want to speak?
No.
Does anyone want to speak against that motion? Put that motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you, Miss Young. That's for that. Item 15.4.1 is the quarterly finance report. Welcome, James Alcanes, Coordinator Financial Planning and Analysis tonight. Councillors, I'll take that report as read. Has any councillor got any questions for Mr. Alcanes in that report, financial report?
Yeah, I have. Get this up. Just in relation to the financial performance indicators, the and I know that we're only the first quarter into these reports, so that the figures might be somewhat skewed. And given that it's the first time that we've had these financial performance indicators presented to us in a quarterly report at the meeting, which I think is great. It's a really good step forward. So it gives us a good idea as to where we're sitting in relation. So I think my question was in relation to the rates concentration. That's right. And the measure of rates compared to the adjusted underlying revenue. And it gives a description there that says higher increasing rate of revenue source suggests an improvement in stability, which can you just give us a bit of a brief explanation as to that indicator, Mr. Elkins?
Sure, yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Rates concentration, broadly speaking, is a measure of our, I guess, a major part of our revenue stream at council. I guess we're forecasting it out to 55.25, which is very similar to where it ended up last financial year. You're right in saying that it is skewed when we present it on a quarterly fashion. But I guess we have a few assumptions in our adjusted underlying surplus result that are still very much unknown at this stage, heavily skewed by if we are to receive the financial assistance grants again this financial year, which, you know, can be quite a sizable revenue injection for council. So we're being a little cautious there, given our results last year. It'll be telling as we monitor this quarterly.
Yeah. So what's that's telling us now at the moment that 64.82% of our income so far is from rates.
Yes.
But what we expect it to be is to be at 55.25. So I imagine that some of the income that we're anticipating to come in has not yet come in terms of
correct.
Or what have you. Yeah,
that's right. We being a small cohort council, as seen in the eyes of the Victorian State Government, we have a higher percentage naturally of reliance on rate revenue, as opposed to our metropolitan counterparts. So it would be good in time to investigate new revenue streams down the track to mitigate that risk, I guess, and sort of spread that.
Yeah. So it's not saying as if it was perhaps a fourth quarter figure, it's not saying that we're grabbing more out of rates than we actually anticipated, which is good. So correct. Yeah, I'm very happy for that explanation. Yeah. And I'm going to extrapolate it to the next chart, which is the expenditure level. Obviously we are not spending a lot less. It's just that that's a quarterly figure, and by the time we get to the end, I assume.
Yeah. So the through you, Mr. Mayor, the frequency of expenditure does increase towards the end of the financial year, as projects tend to wrap up and invoices are presented to council for payment by our suppliers. So we will see that kick up closer to that forecast level of 3,700 towards June.
Yeah, thanks. No more, nothing more from me.
Councillors, any questions? I've got a couple. Oh, Councillor.
No questions.
Mr. Elkins, on page 37 of the agenda, these figures are non-recurrent operating grants. The Vic Health Local Government Partnership, the forecast is 54,000. Year to date's 54, but the updated budget's 122,000. Is that we've spent 54 of the 122? How's that?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. It's actually so we've received $54,000 in a previous financial year. So that particular grant is a carry forward on the 15th of October. And in essence, what this is telling us here is purely income, no expenses in that table. And it's suggesting that the forecast to the end of the year is purely just what we've carried forward in July from prior receipts. So the 122 that was in the original, in the updated budget was in fact overstated
It's timing,
level
yeah,
of grant,
timing.
and timing
freeze,
being
yeah.
a
Yeah.
primary cause of
Yeah.
that.
And the other question that I suppose I'm asking this for the sake of the ratepayer out there and our residents, the gravel cycling project income is $20,000 fully expended. Suppose you'd like to maybe answer that, Madam CEO.
Yes, that was income that was received and I understand has already been expended in that quarter through from T&E. It was a grant that T&E received from bushfire recovery and we've received the income for that.
Okay. That's all I've got.
I've actually got one more. That
Yeah,
didn't
go
realise
ahead.
was there.
Councillor
If
Payne.
that's all right. Yeah, just the flexible local transport solution program grant. What is that? I should know because it's a carry forward, but I
can't remember.
I can't remember
Sorry,
what
you
it
missed
actually is.
It's a very long-winded way of saying a path.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Okay.
Okay.
Indeed,
I wouldn't have guessed that.
through you, Mr. Mayor, we received that funding just before the end of the financial year. So it was one of the two grants that we received after the budget was sort of finalised, and we you noted that in the previous council noted that as a carry forward at the meeting held on the 15th of October. So yeah, primarily footpath development and construction. With that grant.
Okay, not a particular path.
Yes, there was
Stage, or
actually
is it?
2 paths, and now it's testing my memory. Was that Kidston
Yep.
Parade?
One's
Yeah,
kids.
was one of them? Yeah, was the majority one,
Yeah.
and the other one was, I think, the Korean Corps. Might have that wrong, so perhaps
Yeah, we might have to. Come
I
back
might
to
have
the
to
second
check on that one, but I think it was on the Mansfield Whitfield Road, a section of path there.
I have one question, Mr. Mayor. if
Yes,
that's okay.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you. On the same page, the non-recurrent operating grant central registration enrolment scheme income, that 10K of difference from that grant allocation to what we've actually spent and forecasted. Is that, did we make the difference out of council budget outside of that grant?
Just finding the right spot. here.
Central registration and enrolment scheme.
Oh,
Yeah, the
correct.
top of the page.
Please forgive me, Councillor Clark. Yeah, so no, that's actually, we budgeted to only have received 49,000 for the CRES
Mhm.
grant. However, the carry forward that was approved on the 15th of October was 59,000.
Okay,
It's a timing.
It's
So
again,
another
a
timing.
timing
Yeah,
issue. So the answer is no, it's not council bridging the gap there
okay,
in terms of funds. It's all funded.
great, thank you.
And I've got one last one. Councillor Tree.
I just have one on the expenditure level per property, jumping back to the performance indicators. So we're actually forecasting to have quite a saving on a per property basis, or not, a small saving, which is that a sort of an economies of scale thing, considering that most prices are sort of going up?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a very good question, and indeed we are at this point forecasting a slight reduction in costs per ratepayer. So, and that's due to, I guess, our focus internally to make sure we're being as efficient as possible. We a little bit of context, if I may. We're about to embark on a forecasting exercise for the remainder of the year as part of preparations for the 25-26 annual budget, and we will be seeking, I guess, teams internally to seek more efficient ways of spending council's dollar. So that's our goal.
Fantastic, thank you.
Place to leave it. Councillor T.
Yeah, I'd like to move a motion that council receive and notes the comprehensive income statement, balance sheet and financial performance indicators for the period ending 30th September 2024.
Have I got a seconder to the motion? Councillor Treasurer. Councillor T, you want to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that it's really good to see that everything's going on track. There's not many reds, nearly all greens, which is really good to see. And to also see the financial performance indicators, which I know we've been banging on about for quite a few years, to get something readable monthly or quarterly into the finance report, and that's a really good step forward. And I know we can also test these against other shires, these indicators, which gives us a really good indication of where we stand and where we're going as we move along. So just like to say well done for that, and yeah, look forward to seeing more of them.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Treasurer.
No, I'd just like to reinforce that and say well done. Yeah, thank you.
Any councillor want to speak against the motion? Does any other councillor want to speak to the motion? In that case, I will put the motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Alcaraz, for coming in this evening.
Mr. Mayor.
Very good report.
Thank you.
And thanks, we've got Chintan Patel, who was also on.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Madam CEO. I didn't.
Yeah.
He's gone now.
He's gone.
Yeah. See who's there. Used to being in the chamber now. It's great to see everyone in the chamber. Item 16, advisory and special committee reports, there are nil. And item 17, the council meeting resolution action status register. Any councillors, have you got any questions about the register at all? I have one. And I'm assuming it's Madam CEO, you're responsible, yeah.
Yeah.
Just on the status of our MOU with the rail trail. I see it's in their hands, but it went through council some time ago. So I'm just wondering, is there a problem? Or are we just waiting?
No, I'm happy to answer that,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor. I'm very happy to say it actually arrived on my desk today and it was signed today.
Well, there you go.
So you must have known.
No, I did not know, but that's the
Yeah.
how
No,
things
very-
work.
Very
It's
happy.
a wonderful outcome, by the way, because very supportive of the rail trail, obviously. And the other question I had, yes, for the landfill disposal services that went through council in July 2024. And it says that we're just waiting on the draft contract to be finalised. The contract went through us, so has it been changed?
No, through you, Mr. Mayor, the contract hasn't been, well, the award of the contract has not changed. It did take some time to pull that contract together, but council had resolved it well in advance. And I have actually just received that one too, so that's the good news. Yeah, so I'll be reviewing that together with the general manager, and yeah, we'll be having that one signed off too.
Well, they're my only
Yeah.
two questions, Madam CEO, so thank you for that.
I do have
Councillor
one
Clark.
question. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Madam CEO. On the same action, the in progress for the soccer club, I noticed the scheduled meeting was for the 14th of November. Do you have an update on that?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, a brief one. We did have a meeting with the soccer club. And I think the manager development services is currently finalising that in order for that to come back to council. I don't think there was any sort of major changes that came out of that meeting. It was really just providing clarification. So, yeah, I can see the general manager nodding away there. Thanks. Thanks, Ms. Crane.
Great, thank you, Madam CEO.
That's good. Are there any other questions? In that case, page 40 has a recommendation.
Yeah.
Councillor Brady.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council receive and note the Mansfield Shire Council meeting resolution actions status register as at 13 November 2024.
Thanks, Councillor Brenny. And for a seconder, Councillor Clark. Councillor Brenny, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Clark, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Does anyone want to speak against that motion? Or for the motion? In that case, I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried. Item 18, there are no sealing of documents, and which leaves me item 19, which is the close of the meeting. I'd like to say this is our first meeting, and I'd like to congratulate the new councillors on a job very well done tonight. So thank you, and I shall close the meeting. Good night, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cool. Good.